Morning, everybody. Welcome to the Moving Markets Podcast. It is Monday, September the 29th, 2025. U.S. stock market has been open for about 35 minutes right now. I'm breaking the mold a little bit. First of all, I hope I don't do this too many times. I probably already have done this too many times. Apologies for the end of last week. I did not do a podcast on either Thursday or Friday. It was my intention to do it on both days. We in the Dunyon home, we unexpectedly had some things go on that threw schedules completely off. I ended up spending pretty much the entire day on Thursday helping one of my daughters with her kids. Again, wasn't expected at all, but I was glad to be able to help. It just really threw me off. And then Friday, I had to get, I knew this was scheduled, but I had to get an MRI done on one of my wrists and a little procedure that involved a little, I think it's called almost like a microsurgery. Kind of a weird thing. And it's not a real super big deal, but I just had, this is the second time on my left wrist, I've had a little microsurgery to try and help with some tendons in the wrist that do not slide as smoothly through these little sleeves. And if I'm boring you with stuff that you don't care about, I apologize. But some of you might have dealt with this or know what I'm talking about. But I've got some weird thing going on where my wrist tendons that work my fingers and my hands just don't slide easily through these little sleeves that protect them. And they actually had to cut open one of these little sleeves. It's a super easy procedure. It's a relatively common procedure, but it threw me off. It was kind of I got an MRI on Friday morning. They had the results back from it within an hour. And the hand surgeon that I have dealt with, hand and wrist surgeon that I've dealt with before, he said, I've got time to get you in my schedule this afternoon, and that's not normal. I normally couldn't get you in so quickly and so easily. So, and that kind of messed up my whole weekend, because after that, I was kind of recovering from that, and I feel good. My wrist and my hand feel almost back to 100% this morning. Although I do have one of these funky little wrist gadgets where you extend your fingers. If you've seen the Marvel movie, the Disney Marvel movie, Doctor Strange, when he has his car wreck and he's recovering, he's got this little gadget on his hand where he's trying to extend his fingers from a closed fist. And there's these little extender things on each finger. And I've been working with that yesterday and today, and it's still a little bit of discomfort, but already getting back to normal. So anyway, my apologies for that. And then I decided I wanted to do this podcast first thing this morning, even though normally on Monday I would do it in the afternoon around the time the market is closing. I actually have some other things I'm going to be doing around the close of the market. I will get the Signal newsletter out today. We'll end up talking about the new trade tomorrow morning. So I apologize for the lengthy explanation, but I wanted to let you know what's going on. Like I said, I don't anticipate this will become a normal thing where I miss a couple of podcasts. I think I only got 2 in last week. My goal is to get one every single day that the market is open. And usually on most days, it is going to be around the time the market's closed for the day. So, all right, let's talk about what's going on this morning. If you were watching Discord this morning, before the markets opened, I said, don't be surprised. Everything was trading up in futures. And I actually said, don't be surprised if some of this turns around and trades to the negative side before the day is over. Now, so far, the Dow Jones Industrial Average has done exactly that. Now it's back in positive territory, so it just changed. But the Dow started up almost 200 points and then went down as much as 65 or 70 points. Now it's edged back higher. The NASDAQ is having a really good day. The reason I said that I thought the markets could roll over and turn negative today is because tomorrow you have the last day of the month and the last day of the quarter. And even when everything is going good in the stock market, even when everything is going well and the economy is doing well and things are generally moving bullish, you still have this scenario where on the last day of the month and the last day of the quarter, and especially when it coincides with the last day of the week, not the case this week, but you get a lot of repositioning, you get a lot of profit taking from brokers and registered investment advisors, hedge fund managers. You just see a lot of activity that is to sort of book some profits, put some profits on the table, reposition some things. And it's not uncommon to see a little bit of a sell-off, even if all things being equal, the economy is strong, the markets are strong. So remain vigilant and don't be surprised if you do see something like that happen today or tomorrow. Like I said, NASDAQ off to a great start. You've got CrowdStrike up $7.50, CoreWeave up $4.50, Marvell up $1.18, Nvidia up almost $5, Palo Alto Networks up $1.80, Palunteer up $2.45. These are just NASDAQ companies that we trade on a regular basis. Throw in there Google being up $4. It's just, you know, the NASDAQ is moving really strong. There you can see the Dow moved negative again. If I zoom in on the intraday, and granted it's only been 40 minutes of trading, but if I zoom in on the intraday, you can see here how the Dow started way to the upside. I think it was up almost 200 points right at the open, 160, 170, 180, something like that. A big slide down just in that first 20 minutes or so, and now it's touched into positive territory briefly, back down ever so much into negative territory. But we'll see what happens. I don't be surprised if the Dow, at the very least, if the Dow finishes negative. I can on a different screen, I can give you a real quick peek, tell you what's bringing the Dow Jones Industrial Average down this morning. It looks like primarily Chevron, Boeing, and Home Depot. Home Depot being a pretty good, heavily weighted stock. I think it's the third or fourth heaviest weighted stock in the Dow, and they're having a rough day. They're down about 1%, and that alone can bring the NASDAQ down. Boeing, mid-weight stock for the Dow, down about 1.75%. And then Chevron, for some reason, down almost 2.5%. So those are the main companies. The Dow's about 2/3 of the companies are in the red, but a lot of them, in the red, less than 0.5%. Leading the Dow is Nvidia, with Caterpillar being the next best trading stock in the Dow. And Nvidia is up 2.7%. Caterpillar only up 1%. So we'll see where that ends up taking us by the time the day is completely over. As far as a couple of things you should be aware of, I heard someone say they got out of the Marvell trade at the end of last week. I think Keith might have put on Discord that he jumped out of Marvell with a really good profit. If you look at our Marvell trade, I went ahead and closed mine this morning at nearly 27% return. Marvell ended up being just a fantastic trade for us. I thought I might be in Marvell a little bit longer, but man alive, it's hard to not grab that kind of a percentage return when you have it sitting right there in front of you. If you stayed in Micron until the close of the day on Friday, you would have got full percentage on that. I had a mixed bag on Micron. I got nervous and bailed out of some of my shares, but in another account, I let it ride, even knowing that I could possibly take a loss. There's where you would be on Marvell. And then Palunteer is up over 20% right now. I'm not opposed at all to possibly exiting Palunteer. I'll let you know later today if I decide to do that. They're having a nice move up today, so maybe we leave it open for another day or so. And then CrowdStrike is an interesting one, because with CrowdStrike, I think there might be some wisdom in taking the small loss. Remember, this loss we had on CrowdStrike, as little as a month ago, it was an ugly, ugly loss, down a couple $1,000s on just a couple of contracts that I did in my portfolio. And now it's only down about $500 and makes our overall portfolio look really, really fantastic to have gotten so much of that back, to be back to where we are at a small loss. I'm really tempted to just take that loss. It's really hard for me to predict right now. Will CrowdStrike, let me bring it up here real quick. Will it continue up? It had that big, huge surge to the upside one day, a little over a week ago, 2 weeks ago, I guess. Huge surge to the upside, 4 or 5 days in a row of profit taking, and now today's the second day in a row that it's trading up. It's tempting to let it go up a little bit farther because I think their earnings is quite a ways off, end of November or early part of December, I believe. CrowdStrike will probably come back up and test this $210 a share mark. So I'm not quite ready to close it out. If it got back up close to 500, I think I said 210. If it got back up close to $510 a share, this could actually go profitable instead of being down a little bit. So for right now today, with them trading up today, I'm certainly not going to do anything right now. CrowdStrike, like I said, having a good day, up $6 a share. I think they've been up a little bit higher than that 1 point today, but that's still a fantastic gain. I'll take a quick peek. Their intraday chart, their 1 day chart, they've slid a little bit from their high of the day, but they're still having a great day. And I think CrowdStrike could go higher. So for right now, we're going to leave it where it's at. But I'm going to look to close this one pretty quickly if things look like they're going to turn and either flatten or go down a little bit. And then last but not least, on our open spread trades, Nvidia, we've got a lot of profit in Nvidia, and I'm leaning towards also closing out Nvidia, taking that profit, and then maybe repositioning in something Nvidia, maybe after their next earnings. I think Nvidia is still a rock star of a company. I plan on holding it very long term as a collar trade stock. I have shares of Nvidia and don't have any intention of getting rid of those shares. But as far as a spread trade, even a longer term spread trade, it's starting to feel like Nvidia, we've got so much profit there. You kind of want to say, let's not push our luck. Let's maybe take what we have and get out of Nvidia and call it good, and then look for some other opportunities. There may be some other stocks that are phenomenal opportunities going forward. So I may possibly look at the early part of this week, today, tomorrow, that I may send out an alert saying, hey, I'm closing my Nvidia trade and getting out. We've got such a phenomenal profit in that thing. There will be a lot of adjusting on collar trades this week. I wanted to get some of it done last week. I have a couple of collar trades that do not currently have long puts associated with them. But luckily the stocks are remaining bullish, and so we're okay temporarily on that. We'll get those puts added back in place. I would like to maybe open a new collar trade. I'm still leaning very, very strong on the collar side of things to completely 100% exit everything I've had open on Ford. I've talked to some people one-on-one about that, or traded some messages with some people one-on-one. I'm leaning towards doing that. I'm still working on a trade to get into this week. I'm a little bit nervous about tomorrow. I'm a little bit nervous to enter something bullish today, even though the markets are bullish today. Except to see the Dow's back down 50 points now. It's kind of all over the place. I'm a little nervous to enter something that would be a bullish trade today. I don't know about a flat trade or a non-directional trade because the premiums are a little tough on a non-directional trade. I'm just going to watch for the rest of the day. If I don't be shocked today for the main SOS spread trade, if after watching the markets for a little while, I choose to maybe wait a day or two to open a new SOS spread trade this week, I might just hold off and not get into something brand new this week. So keep an eye on that. Don't be disappointed if at the end of the day I send an email and say, hey, no new spread trade today. We'll take a closer look tomorrow. But then there's a chance we'll open a new collar trade this afternoon. Earnings season is a couple weeks away, and there's some additional collar trades I would like to get into. So look at that possibility. And then I sent out 2 new trades for the triple play stuff. One of them filled a double diagonal on Nike. I sent three. A Google in the money bull call has not filled yet. A JP Morgan in the money bull call has not filled yet. But the JPM one is pretty close. And the Google one is a little ways away from filling in terms of what the mid price is relative to my maximum limit order that I'm willing to get in. But it's bouncing around a little bit. It could get back down there and touch it. So I'm going to leave it where it's at. If I don't get filled, I don't get filled. But I'm in the Nike double diagonal trade. And if I don't get filled on the Google or the JPM trade today, those are both in the money bull calls, I'll look for some other trades. We'll get into 3, maybe 4 new trades for the triple play stuff this week. All right. On tap for economic news this week, we've got the ADP, the private payroll information comes out on Wednesday, the full employment situation on Friday. Those are both going to be big tells. You almost want a neutral to kind of a weak number if you're still hopeful that the Fed will give us 2 more rate cuts this year and 1 in the very early part of next year. That's what the Fed projected on their last meeting week and a half, 2 weeks ago. But I got to tell you, there's already a lot of talk that the Fed may start backing off of that they may throw a wet blanket on that themselves and start talking about maybe only 1 more rate cut this year, maybe no more rate cuts this year. A lot of that is going to hinge on this jobs report. Inflation, the PCE report at the end of last week, it was good in the sense that everything came in very much in line with expectations. But what rightfully has made some people nervous is that that's still a little bit of a higher number than what you would like to see. In line with expectations was a tick higher than the month before, not dramatically, but a little bit higher than the month before. And then, like I said, it's still a slightly elevated number over where you would like it to be. So the good news was inflation seems to be in check. And then the sort of, maybe a little bit of bad news is in check is still a tiny bit higher than what you would like it to be. So those employment numbers that come out this week are going to be big relative to what the Fed is most likely to do moving forward. And if they throw a wet blanket, if they start talking more negative about rate cuts this year and into the early part of next year, it's going to create a scenario where the markets, the 3 indexes and a lot of stocks with them, of course, could very easily pull back 3 to 5 to maybe as much as 7 or 8%. And then if that happens, I believe there would be a good end of year rally that would probably take things back to about where they're at right now. And so it could be a volatile end of year as we go into this last quarter. So that's what's got me on pause today, at least for a little bit of a trade. We'll kind of see what happens today and tomorrow. And you've got you've got Susan Collins speaks tomorrow. You've got Waller and Hammock speak today. These are all Fed govs. Thomas Barkin on Wednesday, Lori Logan on Thursday. You've got these different Fed govs that are speaking at different times. And if they all started painting a similar narrative, that narrative being maybe no cuts this year or maybe only 1 more cut this year, that could shake things a little bit. So watch out for that. All right, I'm going to wrap up right there. I'll be back on probably tomorrow around the close of the market. Actually, I take that back. Tomorrow, I will do a podcast around the open of the market, because whether we send out a trade or make a decision to not send out a trade, either way, I want to talk about it tomorrow morning towards the open of the market. So for that reason alone, I'll do a podcast tomorrow in the morning, and then the rest of the week, the podcast will probably be in the afternoon around the time the markets close. All right. Hope we have a great week, everyone. I'll be back tomorrow morning to talk about trades. Thanks. Bye-bye.